got both of our, the side seam, the inner side seam of our pants sewed together. So what we're going to do now is just sew the side seams and you'll be good to go. The outer side seams, rather. And I'm just going to eyeball this. I'm not going to pin it. If you're a newbie, you definitely want to pin your sides because they're not flush and even with the other side. Because as you know, the back is larger than the front. I'm doing the same 5/8 of an inch seam. Checking, making sure I have everything aligned. Alright, got that done. I'm going to go ahead and sew the other side of the other pants leg, and then we'll get the rest of our pants sewn together. So we'll be right back. Okay, so now that I have the side seams on both of my legs sewn at the 5/8 seam allowance, I'm going to go ahead and turn one of them inside out. And I'm going to place that leg on the inside of the other one that's turning out. So push that on in there, down in there. Make sure I have my front to front, back to back. Got my notches in there. And I'm going to take this portion here, right at the inner side seam. And I'm going to align them perfectly. And I'm going to stick a pin here because you want your inner side seams, your outer side seams always aligned. So I'm going to pin that there. I'm going to add a couple more pins here for the crotch line. It's going to be the crotch and the butt line. Put a couple more pins in here. Get that all together. And I'm going to go ahead and sew my butt and my crotch line. Sure, I'd call that something else, but another 5/8 seam allowance. Okay, so I got that done, and what I'm going to do is go over it again, because the last thing you want is to have your garment constructed, put it on, and it busts at any seams. So we're going to go back over the same line again, just to reinforce the stitch. Okay, so I've done that. I'm going to take my pins out really quickly here. And we have literally constructed our pants. I'm going to take this leg out. And we have our pants. Now, the one thing I'm going to do now, before I do my darts, then we're going to construct the top end so I can make sure that my darts are going to be aligned, because I want them as close as possible to each other instead of having darts inwards and outwards and what have you. Now, if you have that, when you're constructing a garment like this, it's really okay, because this is really dark. And if you don't want to, you know, go through the process of making sure it's perfect, that's absolutely fine. It's your garment. If you're happy with it, then that's fine. So I'm going to grab the tops and show you how to go ahead and attach your seams there. So I have my top pieces together, pinned and seamed on one side. I'm going to go ahead and seam the side at the armpit, the 5/8 inch seam allowance. Take my pins out. And I'm going to sew my already pinned shoulder seams. I do use a quarter seam for this, just in case I need to tighten it up, take it loose a little bit, or tighten it up rather. I shouldn't have to take that loose at all. Do it this one this side because of that pin. Right on the corner of your sewing foot, standard sewing foot. So I got that together. So I got all my sides on my top at the shoulder seams and the side seams together. Now I'm going to take and do my darts. I'm going to pin here. Just make sure I keep that aligned. And this is a little bit tricky. You know, I struggle with it sometimes. I may struggle with it right now, but I'm going to try to follow it best as possible so that you can see exactly how I do this. Now, the first time I did this outfit, I pinned it from the top and then from the bottom, and I just decided to connect to keep it one seam. This way, the way that we drafted it today, we actually made the entire seam. So you want to keep your fabric flush. So I'm going to go ahead and start sewing that very tight at the beginning. Duplicate that on this other side. Just my slits here. And I'm going to find the ones here on the bottom, which are right here. Put them together. Pin that, and I'm going to put another one in here in the middle. Now you want to transfer your drawing to each side. That's not what I did here. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it the same way. It's very thin at the top. Just put that there for my guide. One a little bit wider. I've got mine right here so I can have it as my guide to look at. I'll loosen up this. I'll just remove that pin there, so I know where my darts are. one down. Same one. So I got my darts in for this pattern, and I'm going to work on the back. Now I have marked where my darts end, so I'm going to find them here. And I'm going to make that dart for the back. And I'm going to do the one on the other side. Match them up. I'm going to do this one upside down because I'm going to use my other dart as a guide on where I need to stop. Which is here. Okay. So I'm pretty much done with my top. So I'm going to go over to the table and compare these to my pants darts and make sure that I am aligned. So let's go over to the table. Pieces together, and what I'm going to do is make sure that my markings that I made are on the outside so I can use them for a guide. Here, there we go. And when you're doing this, you want to make sure that when you're doing this, you have everything aligned. If it's going the other way, that means you need to turn the garment over. So right now it's matching, that's fine. I'm going to match up at the arm pit, or what I was calling it earlier, the armhole. I'm just going to pin that real quick. I'm just going to put 2 pins in here. Told you I'm not a very big pinner. And I'm going to sew a 5/8. We're still working on our top, and we're going to transfer our darts to the bottom. Before I do that, as you know, we're going to put a 20 to 22 inch zipper in the back of our jumpsuit. So what I'm going to do here is, I have the center fold, still has a mark here on my garment. I'm going to take and cut that center fold out of the back. Now make sure you're using your back piece and not cutting your front piece. It's going to defeat all of the work that you have done so far. So I'm following my fold line. The reason why I don't do this ahead of time, because sometimes when you, especially when you're a newbie and you're working on something like this, it's hard to work with garments that are just flimsy around. So I rather do it because I know where my fold mark is and I can just cut it right open. So I'm just going to place this here. That's the back. This is the back of my pattern. And I'm just going to match that here. And I'm going to find those indentions for my pin, for my notch. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it to see if it's in the same general area, which it is. And I'm going to pin it just to make sure that I have it there. If it's off, you definitely want to pin it so that it ends up being somewhere in the same general area. Same thing I'm going to do here. Measure this out. I'm going to find my darts, which are here. Same general area. And I guess with, especially with McCall patterns, they generally have their darts in the same general area. So when I make something, when I'm combining patterns, typically they line up. If they're a little bit off, again, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. If you do, if you're a little bit more anal than I am, then you can definitely line those up and make sure that they're perfect. This one's still in the general area as well. So I'm just going to pin that. I think I may want it a little bit deeper, so I did kind of come in just a little bit here. I'm going to do the same on this garment. On this side of the front. Here matches with my center seam and the seam line center front. I'm going to pin that. And I am going to the machine to go make my darts and pin my darts for my pants right now.